learn the latest news surrounding Aubameyang, as finally, it seems like we have reached an agreement now with Barcelona to sign the forwards for this window. To move on, we have updates on Wesley Fofana, we have news on Emerson and West Ham, as well as surprise interest in ZANIOLO of Roma. So in today's video, there are a ton of things to break down, discuss. I hope you guys enjoy. Hit that like button, please get involved in the comment section too. And to get straight into the video, let's start with the first story and let's discuss Emerson and West Ham. It does seem like now West Ham have found an agreement with the player to get this deal over the line. Previously, there were some fears that this deal had collapsed because there was a disagreement between the wages that Emerson wanted as well as agent fees too. But regardless, it seems like all those fears are far behind us now. The original agreement of around £30 million plus £2 million in add-ons has finally been accepted, and the player is set to complete his medical today before signing for West Ham. After they loaned Masuaku out to Besiktas, it only makes sense that West Ham had to come back in now to get a deal over the line. So for me, I think this is good news because since we first signed Emerson, every window there have been multiple reports of him leaving the club, only for that to fail. So good luck to Emerson. It'll be a very easy transition to move across London to East London to West Ham, and he knows the Premier League now, and it's a great opportunity for him now to, start to show some of his talent and show what he can do. He had a decent season at Lyon. Of course, even though Tuchel was saying in January that he's a big fan of Emerson, it's quite clear that he has no plans for the player whatsoever, especially as Cucurella has been signed. So good luck to him. We get some money back for him. And now, let's move on to the big news on Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Finally, we have some big developments now coming out from Spain, and it seems like us and Barcelona are in advanced stages now to sign Aubameyang from them. We have details now on the full transfer value that Barcelona are set to accept, and that offer is 18.6 million as the base fee with 4.2 million on top in add-ons, taking the total valuation to around £22.8 million, which isn't too far away from the original €30 million valuation Barca had on Aubameyang. But I'm sorry, when it comes to Barcelona, you signed Aubameyang on a free. You got Arsenal to subsidise the wages as well too. And now you're flipping him for nearly £23 million. I think that's one of the deals of the years, one of the flips of the years for sure. But now it seems like we are finally getting our man. Essentially, time was running out on our side. Barcelona were not going to accept Marcos Alonso as part of the deal involving Aubameyang. Ideally, that would be an entirely separate deal instead, which hopefully now allows Alonso to leave because he isn't featured in the matchday squads and we probably won't see him again throughout this entire season. So now Tuchel is set to have his man for this summer, with Ziyech currently in Ajax, with Hudson-Odoi getting loan offers for days as well too. These guys leaving alongside Timo Werner means that we need to bring in offensive options and reinforcements for this season. That is a must. There aren't many options available of decent quality in the window currently, and Aubameyang is a perfect stopgap replacement that could potentially still be here next season if the move goes through and if he plays well. The key thing here is that Barcelona are satisfied by receiving 80 million up front, which is the key thing here. So I guess now, what can we expect from Aubameyang? Now, across the media in this country, they keep suggesting that a forward and a striker is needed, but I get a bit confused by that because have you not seen a multitude of different forwards used over the past 24 months? To what effect? What did that do for us? So it's quite obvious that signing any striker isn't necessarily the key thing here, but at least Aubameyang and Tuchel have a decent relationship. He understands his way of playing, and let's hope we can get the best out of him. To give you guys some insight behind why Aubameyang did so well at Barcelona compared to his final few seasons with Arteta, was down to the fact that Xavi actually introduced more of a counter-attacking style to Barcelona. He was heavily reliant on the skill of the wingers and your Ferran Torres's, Dembele's, etc, etc. And as Xavi himself said, he wanted to bring back the old Barcelona DNA where they really took advantage of the space and transition. And this is where Aubameyang really shined, playing up front as a striker, playing through the middle. But with Aubameyang, he isn't one of those forwards that's going to drop deep to link up the play. He isn't a forward that's like a false nine or a target man or anything like that. He is really heavily reliant on the service he receives. His best qualities come to exploiting the defensive line of the opposition. So if there's a high line, he still has that pace to exploit them and get in behind. And really, he comes alive inside the opponent's penalty box. I mean, the guy can finish with either foot. His finishes are first time as well too. He's very accurate and very deadly still. And actually maybe that is the type of quality, that type of experienced figure we need in the final third, because listen, he's still going to miss some chances. It's only natural in this game. No player exists in football that has like 75% conversion rates. It doesn't exist. And you guys can't even do that on FIFA. But my thing is, I'm still very open to how Tuchel will plan to use Aubameyang. I've always kind of seen him as a guy that kind of excels drifting out wide on the left-hand side before cutting back in. And really, Aubameyang does really well when, you know, there's ideally that focal presence inside the box where he can then make the late man runs inside the box, or if he has those balls played in behind to him, or if he's on the ends of receiving crosses, of course, and stuff like that inside the box. So if we can create those conditions, I think Aubameyang is going to be successful. But after seeing how so many forwards have kind of struggled, like I said, I've got an open mind to see what happens. But again, is he necessarily the answer? Time will tell. But the same questions were posed to Aubameyang when he joined Barcelona, and look how this guy flipped the script. So with a player like this who still has a lot of pedigree in this game, let's see what he can do. So right now we take things forward and let's discuss the latest news on Wesley Fofana. Now, after the guy didn't take part in Leicester's game versus Southampton, where it was mutually agreed by both Brendan Rodgers as well as the player that it made sense for him not to play in that game, for me that was the reality moment sinking in for Leicester. That meant that they had to sell the player and cash in. They've had a pretty poor start to the season. A loss versus Southampton has kind of forced them now to have to realise it's time to sell Fofana, get some money back for him, and reinvest into this team, because it's not looking too good right now. Now, in my opinion, just a little quick segue, you guys, I wouldn't be surprised if we found out one of our players potentially making a loan move to Leicester City in exchange. Let's see what happens there. As I'm stressing, that's only my opinion, but who knows what's going to happen. But let's focus on some of the reports coming out right now, and we turn to journalist Ben Jacobs, who you guys saw on this channel last week, and he gives us the lowdown and context behind what is happening at this point in time. Essentially, it comes down to this: Leicester City are still adamant that they want a world record fee to sell the player, but realistically that probably won't happen. And for me, it's kind of like Leicester saving face. You know, they need to keep their reputation in the market. You know, we kind of forget that at the broad level, it really is like a bit of a battle in terms of, you know, how you're going to dominate the opposition teams to get the players you want for the right fee. And Leicester are notorious to deal with in the market. I'd imagine that add-ons will probably take the potential valuation to this deal possibly over the world record fee line. But the reality is, will Fofana meet every single one of those add-ons? Probably not. It might not even matter though, because as long as Leicester City can admit to the fact that they've received that, that's all that matters in terms of marketing reasons. So that's my personal hunch on how this thing could play out. But realistically, it does seem like we're still hoping that 80 million will be enough to get this deal over the line. Now, as long as Leicester are satisfied by receiving a high base fee, that gives them more flexibility now to add some additions to their squads before the window closes. I think a high base fee plus, you know, decent add-ons on top could be enough to get this deal over the line. We've already agreed a 6-year, 230,000 a week deal with Fofana. I think that's a crazy amount of money. And I'd imagine still that even in that deal, there are going to be lots of like clauses and add-ons that take that wage packet across the 200,000 range. But it does seem like a deal is coming soon, because realistically, we're the only club in the market that actually can sign Fofana right now. With him coming, hopefully you're going to see Reece James playing as a wing back, but in my opinion, it's not really much of an excuse during that Trevor Chalobah's still here. You still could have used him versus Leeds, had Reece James playing as a wing back and had Ruben playing in midfield. You could have switched things to a 3-5-2. There were still options there, so I don't necessarily feel like the right hand side comes back now, because that hasn't been our weakness in these past few games. Could we potentially see Fofana playing against Leicester at the end of this week? That's our next game coming up soon. I'd be very, very surprised. Probably not, but I guess it would make for a good story if that was potentially the case. Still though, meaningful dialogue is needed to get this deal over the line. We want to reach a verbal agreement first before actually offering that final third offer. So it's up to Leicester now to give us a price, accept our demands, and have this deal over the line. I think Fofana's going to be very interesting to see. I feel as I keep saying, for many guys who signed this window, I've got an open mind behind him. I still don't think he's a finished article. He will have mistakes in this game, and I'm curious to see what the fan base's response is going to be like as the season does progress. But he is still very young. That has to be remembered, And he is quite moldable and has some decent attributes to his game. So let's see how this move plays out. And right now we end things by discussing news from Italy suggesting that we have some interest now in ZANIOLO of Roma, with us showing interest to sign Anthony Gordon. Potentially, could that valuation that Everton have placed in the player's head force us to look at alternative candidates in case a deal does fall through? That could be the reason here, because realistically clubs won't just focus on one player, they'll have at least 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, in the shortlist as well to back them up. But still though, ideally Mourinho wants to keep ZANIOLO. You'd imagine that Tammy, Dybala, ZANIOLO, that's a pretty potent front three, that's quite sexy indeed. But reports in Italy are suggesting that we are one of the new clubs now alongside Tottenham and Juventus expressing interest to try and sign the player. Now Roma, they're bored, they're happy to sell at the right price. The price needed though is around 50 million euros, so that's around like 42, 43 million pounds, which is less than Anthony Gordon. He's a very talented player, and at this point in time though, just to give you guys some more context, if a move did not happen for ZANIOLO this window, then he could potentially remain and renew his deal as his contract expires in 2024. So normally, as we know you guys, when players have 2 years left on their deals, this is normally the prime time to make a move happen, to see what happens, to sign them for realistic fees. But regardless, I'm going to give some of my thoughts and opinions before ending things. And you know, I like ZANIOLO. I like that type of maverick attitude he has. I think he's quite skillful. He does like spectacular things. He does a lot of things that makes us fans happy. But I want to ignore all the positives and focus on the realities, because I don't necessarily feel that he makes a lot of sense. I think one of the number one things that sticks out for me is that he has a history of picking up muscle related injuries. Now, I'm not normally one to like kind of write off players due to injuries, but with us recently, with how many players have suffered from them, I don't think we need to add another player of that position to join an existing squad full of guys suffering from muscle injuries. I think that's not the right move for us at this point in time. For me to continue on though, I think his disciplinary records is mad. I think he got 10 yellow cards and 2 reds last season. That doesn't make sense. That's way too much. And I think his like maverick personality, you know, is a bit of a bad boy in that sense as well too. Some of the stories you read about him in his personal life too, you know, I think that kind of just matches up his character. And does a personality like this really suit a dressing room like ours, who are a lot more calmer and a lot more easier with things? I'm not too sure. And for my final 2 concerns, there's talks that Tottenham looked at him as a potential wingback. I don't see ZANIOLO as a wingback. I don't think he has the discipline for that. I don't think he has the stamina for that either. I mean, this is a guy that's picked up a few injuries over his career, and I just don't think he'd be the right choice to use with that left foot playing wingback. That doesn't make too much sense to me. And realistically, where would he play? Would he be like an option, I guess, to play in the cam position alongside Mount and Havertz? Yeah, that could work. But I guess to end my point, the reality simply is, has he necessarily played enough football over consecutive seasons to really justify the move right now? I think he hasn't scored more than 6 goals in a career in 1 season. For me, I think you have to be like a star guy of your team first before stepping up to join the big clubs like ours. I think we can't take too many expensive gambles now on players that haven't necessarily fulfilled their promise at this point in time. He's still very young. If I'm ZANIOLO, I remain at Roma and I continue to focus and train hard until I'm 24, 25 before considering a move away. But again, very skillful, powerful shooting, nice dynamic dribbling too, but I just don't see him making sense at this point in time. So you guys, on that note, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. Thank you for watching. Share your thoughts and opinions below. And on that note, I'm NiniFC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.